All right, Courtney, thank you for sitting down and talking with me today. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you.
Yes, thank you for inviting us. This is great.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's just jump in.
Let's do it.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. What early encounters with inequity shaped your path into community and housing justice?
Yeah, so Habitat is, the organization that I represent, and Habitat actually started because of an injustice. And so back in 1976, Millard Fuller and his wife decided that they had a calling to do God's work. And so they were millionaires, and they just lost their path. And so they gave all their money away.
Wow.
And said, God, where do you have us go? And so they found this incredible pastor named Clarence Jordan in Americus, Georgia, which is southwest Georgia. So you can imagine what that environment was like back in, the 60s or so. And so they go down to this farm called Koinonia Farms in Americus, Georgia, and it was integrated. It was an integrated community in the 1960s in southwest Georgia.
Wow.
And they learned from this pastor. And what they were seeing on this farm is that the sharecroppers would go to work every day, work hard all day long, and they would go home to shacks. Mm-hmm. They would retire to shacks. And the pastor and Millard, who had this great entrepreneurial mind and this spiritual leader, they come together and say, there's something that's not just about this.
Yeah.
That how is it that a person can labor all day and that what they retire to is falling apart? And so they came together and said, we want to change this. Yeah. And so they took this model of Habitat to overseas first. They said, can we build houses in partnership with the homeowners? And it was successful. And so they came back to the United States, and they sat in the chicken coop, which is crazy, a chicken coop, handwritten minutes, the first meeting of Habitat for Humanity, and the goal was we want to build houses for 1 million people.
Wow.
And Habitat has reached that goal many times over. But in that moment, in 1976, they said, there is housing justice that we have to step into. Unfortunately, that pastor, Clarence Jordan, he didn't live to see the start of Habitat for Humanity. But Habitat International, our local affiliate, we like to honor that spiritual leader who led Millard Fuller to finding this amazing ministry that would find people who were hardworking people, give them an opportunity to have their own home that they can afford, and then bring the community together to make that happen.
That's awesome. That is an awesome story.
It is.
So, Courtney, what about that story spoke and speaks to you and drives your passion for this work?
Yeah, so it's the partnership piece. I've been at Habitat for almost 13 years now in my role, and I see that people love the dignity of input. So there's this concept of sweat equity we have at Habitat, that families, they give what they can, they do what they can, their time, and that pride and that empowerment that comes with their involvement in their housing. And I think something we say at Habitat is, don't do something for me without me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so that idea that we're alongside, and I personally, I don't like the savior complex, because I need somebody in another, way. Habitat's a hand up, it's not a handout. So walk with me, not watch me do the things for you. Nobody needs that,
Nope.
So that's what personally drives me, is that partnership, that investment, that equity.
Savior complex. I like that. I like that. And I particularly like when you talked about don't do anything for me without me, because a lot of times we get confused. We say, I want to help and I want to serve, and we have this calling and this passion, but then we never ask the people that we're doing, right? And then we say, well, we have this service, I built this building, but no one comes. Well, they don't want that building, they wanted a car, right? So don't do anything for me without me. I love it. So how do you ensure that let me go back. How do you connect the dots between stable housing and health outcomes?
Yeah, so research shows that stability in housing, it reaches all parts of health, and we're the housing people, and we don't take away from the food people and the clothing people and the health people, the prescriptions and all that. But in our mindset is that a stable home is the foundation stone on which human development can occur, right?
Yes.
And not just the idea of it, but affordable, right? And I know you work so much in affordability and helping people get across that line. But for us, we say, if I can get you into a decent house that you can afford, then perhaps there's more income for health, more income for the things that you can do. But also, our research shows at Habitat, when we survey our homeowners, stress levels, you know, and we know your stomach hurting every day isn't always a physical reaction. Sometimes that's a mental reaction because of money, you know, not making ends meet. We see, you know, with our houses that we build to a certain code, families with asthma, kids with asthma, taking away some of those barriers. And we have, we surveyed some of our families, and almost 50% said hospital visits went down just because of housing. So, you know, you think about mold and you think about air quality. Those are physical reactions that I'm sure you guys talk about a lot here, but we like to think about mental reactions, stability, coming back to a place that you feel safe, and then hope, right? That I'm investing in myself. There's a future for me. And so we build the bridge for that house so that people can feel healthy in many ways. You know, it touches all parts of health, spiritual health, right?
Absolutely.
That when I come, we tell families, this is your sanctuary, right? And I think about how many times I pull into my driveway, and I can experience many things. I could be coming from a thing that was sad or hard or exciting or joyous or whatever the case. But when I open the door to my house, I'm allowed to feel whatever I need to feel because I've created a space that I'm safe and I can be myself. So I'll tell families, you're not going to have all good days. You're not going to have all bad days. However, when you open the door to your house, you're allowed to experience whatever life has for you in your place that you control, and your energy is there. And that is also a part of health for us.
That's awesome. And you talk about affordability. There are so many different words for justice and equity. And affordability, that's equity. Because if the house is there, but if I can't afford the house, I don't have access to a house, right? So when we're talking about justice and equity, you know, everything that's going on in our climate right now around DEI and what we can't say and what we should say, I think this is important because those of us that are nonprofits that are writing grants, and we have to be just transparent, right? This podcast is about bold conversations, right? And saying what needs to be said. We can't write grants and say equity. We can't say minority. We can't say low income. All of this mess.
There's a lot.
Right? So this conversation is good for those of us that are in nonprofits that have to write grants. Affordability. That's equity.
That's equity.
But you say affordability.
It works, right?
It works.
That's right.
It works. And I love tying that to health because everything impacts everything else. Education, health, transportation. It's all, I want people to understand you can't unpack any of that. It's all woven together. It's all, Courtney.
It's all a chain reaction. And what you guys do here, getting people their physical health affordable, you know, access. It's what I can't quite understand is how people don't think that healthier communities and families really doesn't benefit everybody. You know, it's not a them and us, it's an us. Period. You know, I might not be us on this level or this level, but you can find an us on a level. And that's what our advocacy is about housing. We can all come together and say, okay, a house doesn't matter, right? You know, it's not a Christian problem, a Muslim problem, Jewish problem. It's not a high income, low income. It is something we all value as human beings. We all desire home. And so that's always been kind of our angle. Like, oh, whatever aisle, you know, whatever aisle you see, whatever place you worship, I bet you can come around the idea that you want to go home to a place that you can afford and that is good for you. We can agree on that, right?
Absolutely. So how do you ensure that Habitat's planning centers the voice of family served? And you kind of already talked about that, right? Not doing anything for me without me. But like, what intentionality do you have to make sure that your partners, your families' voices are being heard?
So the cool thing about how Habitat is set up is when they buy the houses from us, we're their bank. So we are interacting on a monthly basis when a mortgage is being paid. And so in those conversations, you are journeying with someone over the course of 30 years. And so you're in constant relationship and communication. You go through people getting married, people having children, maybe elderly parents that have passed away, and you're working with them through all those things. So there is relationship first. It's not like I'm talking to you because I want to get information with you. Right. No, I'm talking to you because I care about you. And in that, I've gained some information, right? Yeah. Just the approach. People don't want to be used, right? So you talk and you have relationship with people. And in that, you get so much revelation. So for example, to give you an actual example, is we have a homeowner maintenance education, which is a class that we teach. And they're life-size modules in our building of rooms of the house. You have the kitchen, the bathroom, the basement, all that. Well, that class wasn't because Habitat was so brilliant. It was because over the course of the first 15 years, we'd get callbacks. And families would say, hey, I didn't know how to do this. And our staff started writing it down. Yeah. And over the time, we said, we have a curriculum. We have a curriculum because our homeowners are telling us, when I got in my house, I didn't understand how to take care of this.
Right.
And so instead of just going and doing the same thing and expecting different results, we created a class that now is nationally recognized for homeowner maintenance. And every single partner family has to go through that class even before they choose a property.
Wow.
All that came from the people who we started with when we were just new, trying to figure out how to do it. People say, we kind of need education too. Right. It's not just the experience of building a house. Can you teach us how to be homeowners? And so all that feedback makes our classes what they are. I mean, you've been great. You've been a money mentor for us.
Yes, I love it.
That's not because we just came up with it. It's families saying, hey, I really didn't realize that I was going to pay all these bills. I didn't realize that. And so we help them with the budget. Yes. It's not just, one thing about Habitat and having the flexibility that we do is you can change a curriculum every year if you want to. We're not going to be stuck just because someone says do it this way. If the homeowners aren't getting it, it does not bode well for us. So there were times we would do a financial class that was video only. The families were just like falling asleep. Okay, this isn't it. Let's find something that engages them. So their input, what they feel like they haven't learned or what they feel like they wish they knew, coming back and telling us, we rewrite things for them. I always talk about the budget. The budget when I first started didn't have Netflix, Amazon, all that. None of that was DoorDash. That was not on the budget, 12 years ago. And until Money Mentor was like, where does this go? Where did the subscriptions go? Yeah. Back in the day, it was just like a magazine subscription. Now everyone's got Peacock, Prime, and so they changed that for us. Like, I need to put this somewhere, and that's the input that they help us continue to be better. Yeah.
So that's taking that voice of the customer for continual process improvement, right? So, a lot like our nonprofits are business. Yeah. And sometimes people just see the things that we do and it's like, well, it just happened by osmosis. But it doesn't, right? We are using business concepts to make sure.
I love that you say that. That is actually something we all often have to fight. We are a business.
Yes.
Just because we're the good people. Like someone, asked me, you work at Habitat? Oh, you're a good person. I was like, I'll take that. But I actually have to do I have to be competent at what I do, But they just think, oh, a bunch of good people work there. And I love that. I'll take it. But we're a business. Yep. We are a business. And we have financials and we have staff that need to be good at what they do. We have success. We have to measure that, you know? And so sometimes people give us a hard time as nonprofits as if that's not top priority. It has to be. If we're good stewards, we have to be business-minded. So because we're the bank, it does not bode well for families not to be successful.
Absolutely.
We need those mortgage payments. And so anything a homeowner says, I wish I knew, it's okay. It's time to teach it.
That's right.
That's the business of Habitat. So, and I think our homeowners love feeling like they're contributing to the business. That they're stakeholders in the business, and so their voice matters to how we grow.
Yes. So Courtney, unpack for me when you say Habitat is the bank, because we probably have some listeners that don't understand the intricacies of Habitat. So when you say you're the bank, what does that mean?
Sure. So Habitat, we have families who come into our partnership. We are working with people who are low to moderate income. So they have to have 3 areas of qualification. One, they have to have the ability to pay. So big misconception, which is one of the things that you're going to ask here, is that Habitat homes are given away. They're not given away. They are sold. I will sing that. I'm like, say it in my dreams and my sleep. Habitat homes are sold. So they have to have the ability to pay. That's 2 years of stable income. But we're not working with people who can just walk into a bank and apply for a loan. We're working with folks who are a little under that. And so, credit, we're not looking at credit score, what your bank looks at.
Yes.
We're looking at debt to income ratio, how much debt is going out, how much income is coming in, can you afford a mortgage with Habitat? And then we look for need for housing. Are you currently in a substandard situation? Are you high rent, 30%, like getting back to affordability and justice, over 30% of your gross income going to housing does not leave room for other things. So we're looking at that, overcrowding, substandard. Are you in temporary housing? Even with our government housing, it wasn't meant to be permanent, right? So our goal is, this is temporary. This is, you want to build something maybe more futuristic. So those are 2. And then 3, the willingness to partner with us. Like we said, that involvement, that investment. So once a family is qualified that way, they come into our partnership and they're with us for 18 to 24 months. Doing classes like you teach, 12 weeks of semester classes, homebuyer education. But they also build with other families who've come before them. They give before they receive. This is a mindset, right? Like, I'm here to serve. And then I know that I will be blessed in this process. So they go out and build with the people who've come before them. They work at the Restore. They work at our warehouse. They come to events. And then eventually they build their own house or renovate their own house alongside volunteers. And they do that. They're there doing the construction. At the end of that process, they buy the house from us at, here's the thing, 0% interest. Wow. 0 interest. As a Christian organization, biblically, our foundational principle is when you give your brother a loan, you charge them no interest. That is kind of our foundational principle. That's how we commit to affordability. So we sell the house at cost, right? Yeah. And so they're paying their mortgage payments back to us. Now, that makes us the bank. Yes, but here's the real cool part, is while they're paying for their house, they're investing in the next group of families because those mortgage payments then go into shore up the construction of the houses that come after them. So every family is an investor.
Yep, and it does take time because when we talk about mindset, poverty mindset is real.
It's real.
Right? So earlier when you talked about mental health and getting your mental health in order, I still have poverty mindset creep into my life because of how I grew up. I was just sharing a story with a friend that I had a nice sized piece of money that was just sitting in my savings account, earning like 2 cents every 30 days or whatever. And someone was telling me, put it in a money market. I'm like, no.
I don't trust
Because if I need my money, I ought to be able to get my money. Something may happen, right? And she was like, Treese, like, you good. Like, your money is just not working for you. But that poverty mindset and talking with my therapist and working through some things, I took the money and put it in a money market. And the interest is just blowing my mind. I'm like, oh my God, I just got that much money, right? But it's that poverty mindset. And
scarcity.
It's scarcity because, at any time,
I might need it.
Yes. So it takes time to overcome poverty mindset.
And I get it. Like, I think that's one of the most misconceptions that I really struggle with when people are talking about folks in low income. Like, they're incredibly resourceful. And when you have to figure something out every 2 weeks, that in itself is diminishing parts of your brain, that critical thinking that should be used for other things.
Yes.
But the idea that people in low income are lazy and not thinking, they're thinking every day about, and we're saying, we don't want you to have to think about that every day. Think about something else, right? But they're thinking every day. And something else I noticed that people don't realize, low-income people are generous. And our families have to save $2,500 in their account as they're preparing to buy the house. Do you know how many families I have to tell, you can't help your cousin, you can't help your mom, you can't bail this person out. Really, you don't have it. But it's not because they're give, take. No, the families I work with are generous. They're helping people. Anytime they make a come up, everybody makes a come up. What happens in that is when you take care of everybody else, you guys will still be looking at each other in the same low situation. So I always tell families like, hey, I'm never going to not tell you to take care of your mom. I get it, because no one could tell me not to help my mom, right? What I'm saying is, let's get you to a level where helping doesn't hurt you so much, right? So I say, hey, you're building this house. There is someone in your family got their eye on that one bedroom. So you need to decide now where your line is, where's your boundary, so that you can take care of yourself, so you can continue to give. If you have a heart of a giver, love that. Keep that. God gave you that. But don't give into a place where you won't continue to be a blessing,
Right,
you know?
right,
So,
right.
like,
You know, I've heard it said that people are poor because they make bad decisions. That's not true.
it's not true.
People make bad decisions, and I'm going to air quote bad decisions, because they're poor. When you have to figure out how to pay for my rent or for this tire that just busted on my car, you know, you have people that may float a bad check, or, you know, and then that just spirals.
Yeah.
But they're doing that because they are trying to maintain,
Yeah.
right? Choose the lesser of the evil.
Two bad decisions.
Yeah, two
You have
bad
a choice
decisions. Like, yeah, people, you're not poor because you made bad decisions.
And we all make bad decisions.
Absolutely.
The luxury and the privilege is that I can afford a bad decision. Our families can't afford a bad decision. I make a bad decision. I made bad decisions when I was a teenager and 20, but if there's a safety net, you don't feel how, you know, the ripple effect of that bad decision. Our families, they can't afford the bad decision that's inevitably going to be made because of maturity, because of situations, children, things come up. I used to love snow days as a kid, right? Love them. Like, until I had to go to my grandma's, because grandma's, it was like, sit down somewhere. But I had a grandma who was retired, and my mom still went to work when I had a snow day. Even when I was sick, I went over there because my grandma was retired. And my mom still went to work, and I had someone taking care of me. And I talk to the families now, and I say, what happens when the school's closed for 4 days? And I don't have PTO. I'm an hourly worker. My parents still, you know, they still work. How do you take that hit for 4 days of pay if your employer allows you to stay, right? And I know there's I'm not making the employer the villain.
No.
I'm just saying, how do you come on the other end of that?
It's reality.
I don't want to miss 4 days of pay for snow, something I didn't decide. And so I just think about how hard that is. That's a decision that has to be made, you know? And that privilege that I had, a grandparent who was willing to watch me, a place where I was safe, that's a privilege.
It is a privilege.
There's nothing my mom did that allowed that to happen. That was just the structure I was born into, and it was a privilege.
Yes. Sometimes when we start talking about privilege, if we say white privilege or this or that privilege, people instantly feel attacked or uncomfortable. But we all have privilege. We have some sort of privilege. And what we have to understand is, just because it's not a problem for us doesn't mean it's not a problem for someone else.
Right.
Right? So how do we begin? In order for us to create equitable spaces for folks, we have to figure out, how can we do things differently?
Totally.
You know, how can we do things differently? Because people are struggling.
They're struggling. And I think a lot of it is because we choose to turn a blind eye to what makes us uncomfortable. We all do.
We all do.
We all do.
Absolutely.
And so the first conversation is look inward. Like, check yourself, because you do own some privileges here. And I'm not sure, you know, some things you're fighting against, but there are things you do own. How are you stewarding your privilege, right? Your voice. And that's, and one of our classes, the scripture is, to whom much is given, much is required. So we say to families, you might be at Habitat, but you are given an opportunity. Use that privilege to be a blessing and to help somebody else, because you are privileged to be here. There is somebody who didn't qualify. There's somebody at Refuge of Hope right now who's not in your situation. And I'm not taking anything from your hard work. No. But there is a privilege to being where you are. Use that. Absolutely. And I think people don't think you have to get to a certain level to give. No. Give what you can. And so what our families, they don't have the money to go buy on an open market, but what do they have? Time. They have the ability to show up and lend a hand and swing a hammer. That's why Sweat Equity was created, to say you might not have 25% down payment, but guess what you do have? A Saturday. So come and let's make this happen. And I'm a contributor now I have empowerment, right? And so that is kind of that. Check yourself at the door.
Yes, absolutely. I love you bringing up House of
Refuge of Hope.
Refuge of Hope. I get the one mixed up. This in Akron. Partnerships. What partnerships have been surprising or unlikely? You know what I'm saying? That have helped you tap into some of that untapped potential.
Sure. So more than surprised, we feel like the way we look at partnership is what matters to you. You know, what is it that, because like I said, we can all come to the idea of home. And so, you know, through our local government, which has been great here for us, you know, finding what matters to them, they want healthy neighborhoods.
Yes.
Right? So, okay, Habitat can be a contributor in that way. We partner with our faith communities. They're finding a way to mobilize their faith in action. Okay, so let's get you out on site. Let's get you out of the pew. Let's get you out of the temple and go put your hands to something. So we have, it's not surprising, but it's a challenge to find the thing that matters to everybody and bring them in that way.
Yes.
You care about getting people out of a poverty mindset. Can you be a money mentor? Right? You know, so people who care about something, we find the way to partner with them, use their expertise and their energy to push this forward, you know, push this home ownership forward. So I'm surprised at all the ways we can find what people care about, you know, and what matters. Some people are big on education, so that's where they come and volunteer to teach our classes, you know. So just finding all the ways people can contribute, because there are many ways.
There are. And you talk about the faith-based community, and I think that there is so much untapped potential. Because the faith-based community, I can only speak from my lens of knowledge, in the African American community, your pastor, your bishop is the authority, right? So if that pastor stands up in that pulpit and says, I need y'all to go volunteer at Habitat, the congregation is going to go volunteer at Habitat. And I don't think we pull on our faith-based community enough. I think that there is a bit of a taboo in talking about God and faith. And I love that Habitat has stayed true to that foundational principle, right? So we don't want to talk about God and talk about calling. And so I think we forget about our faith-based community. And this is a topic for a different day, but especially in the space of mental health, right?
Yeah, oh my gosh.
So the fact that you all are pulling on our faith-based community as a partner, I don't think that there is any collaboration that should take place in our community. And we were at a table where this came up. That a pastor should not be a part of that discussion. Like, how do you have this phenomenal video, and I ain't going to tell names. You have this phenomenal video of all of these key stakeholders in community and not one pastor.
Right. And what we're finding, we just started something called the Southeast Table, where we bring all the pastors in Southeast Canton, which is an area that we really are focused in, and we bring them to a table, and we say, how can we help you? How can you help us? And we pulled off a worship service, which people thought was like, it was a total God thing, at the playground in Southeast that we built. Last year, we did a worship service, and all pastors contributed. They closed their doors on Sunday, and they brought all their congregations to the playground, right? Crazy. People are like, that'll never happen, right? We had 300 plus people in a playground, lawn chairs, and we were able to pull off a service where all of them had speaking parts, and they followed directions. They didn't go long. We were like, everyone has 2 minutes. And we were like, okay, Lord.
We kept a pastor to 2 minutes, girl.
We got 12 pastors to 2 minutes.
Right.
But the power that was in that space and the unity of the table, and that's why we call it the table.
I like that.
We're here to support them. They're here to support us. What we're saying to the faith community is, you don't have to do it all.
Right.
We'll do the housing stuff. Right. But we need somewhere to pass people off to. Once they have a house, they need to be able to walk into your spaces of worship if they desire, and feel welcome and feel like they saw you on their house. And so one woman was building a house, and she's like, why is it that every time I'm building my house, there's a pastor here? I guess I must need to go back to church, you know. But we're like, but this is how you get involved. You know, you guys don't have to reinvent the wheel. We'll do some of that. But it's been great. It's been enlightening. I've sat in so many churches and ministries. I was in a Shabbat service with Temple Israel. I was just recently in St. George's Antiochian, which is a Middle Eastern Orthodox church.
Here?
Yes, and I was sitting in that and just listening to them speaking Arabic, and I'm just like, okay, I can get behind, you know, whatever. But like in that, I was sitting there and I was like, thank you, God, for the richness of this experience to pull people who speak a different language, eat different foods, to come and do something we all can care about. And so it was a phenomenal time.
Yeah. And we talk about, and I'm going to get off of this, but like you tapping into my core. We talk about like the mission work and the calling, and we talk about being called to service or missionary work, and we think getting on a plane and going over to Ghana.
Right.
But missionary can be right here.
Local
missionary
missions.
work is that Southeast table that you started, right? So we are all sent for a higher purpose.
We are.
And we need to make sure that we honor that.
That is also like kind of especially like a mega church challenge we have. I can't say criticism because I'm not in their space, but I will watch a missions budget send people overseas to do work. And they'll say, oh, in our mission budget, we got to bring it down. It's like, you can do 5 houses with that 7 miles from your church.
Yes.
So what we started doing in some of our suburban churches is we start putting maps on the screen. This house is 7 miles from you. This is 7 miles from you. This is called local missions.
Yes.
Every person who goes can drive themselves. You don't have to pay for a plane. No, I don't want to take away from abroad because Habitat is international.
Yes.
So we do a lot of work overseas. But it's like, you can give up 4 hours on a Saturday and hit that mission pretty hard. And so we've had to do that because people feel like missions means abroad. And yes, you're serving people who don't have the same situations we have. We're in the United States. We have certain privileges. But it's like, but you could do this every Saturday. You can do something on this scale. And so local missions has definitely been something I've been pushing.
Yes.
Like, that homeowner could be the person who takes care of your elderly parent at Cleveland Clinic Hospital, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That homeowner might be serving or working alongside you. And you can say, I helped them get, to this certain place. So. Yeah.
And a key point, you just talked about how you put it up on the screen so that they can see it. The Bible says a closed mouth doesn't get fed.
That's true.
So if we don't ask, it'll never happen. And as nonprofit leaders, we have to do a whole lot of asking.
We do.
Right? Right. So we ask, but we have to have those KPIs and those outcomes, right? Those key performance indicators and those outcomes to this is the proof in my pudding.
Yes.
And then second, storytelling.
Yes.
The art of storytelling. If a person can relate to what you're talking about, they're more willing to give of their treasure, their time, or their talent. So I think it's very important that we have those stories. And I know Habitat does a really good job of getting their family stories out there.
Well, and we, at every work site at 10 o'clock, which there are 2 work sites going on right now, at 10 o'clock, which devotion is happening on every work site right now.
Wow.
So we pause at 10 on every single work site and we bring some meaning to what we're doing. And the homeowners there share their stories. I tell them, I will never share your story like you can. So I'm going to get in these classes, we're getting them ready to share your story. Now, of course, people expect me to speak Habitat. That's what I do for a living. But I will never bring it home like someone who says, I've done this. I have experienced this. And so through that process, we're telling them, hey, you're a fundraiser too, right?
Yeah.
You tell the story so people know it's real.
Yeah.
And so at 10 o'clock at every site, we break for devotion, we share a little bit about Habitat, and we tell the homeowner, share a little bit about yourselves.
That's awesome.
And that's when they say, I'm a mom, I have 3 kids, I sought this opportunity because blah, blah, blah. And then people are like, okay, now I know her.
Yes.
And now I know her. I'm not just doing construction. I'm not just putting up drywall. I'm building a house with this person.
Right.
So that's important to us too.
It
that they
is.
share their own stories.
Yeah. And I think about in my prior life when I worked for an FQHC and we would go to the Capitol, we would take one of our patients with us.
Yes.
Because I can't tell your story. So even when we're lobbying and when we're advocating, having a patient or a family or a client next to us to deliver their story.
It's important too. Also empowers a family that your story can move mountains, and how to tell that story. Sometimes when people are coming from poverty or low income and they're usually used to fighting for that government dollar, I'll have a family come and share their whole life story in the first 5 minutes of meeting. And I say, I didn't earn that from you. This is not how Habitat works. Your worst story doesn't get you a house faster.
Yes.
So let's own our story in a different way, not as a get, but as a give, because it can help the next person. So even teaching people how to tell their own story, like, no. Right. Yes, you were a teen parent, but you're 40 now. You're 40 now, right? Know when to share that part of your journey because it diminishes the woman you've become.
Yes.
You are a woman who's raised children. You've worked at a job. Yes, that was your story at 17, 16, and sometimes that's helpful. But today, you're a different woman. Let's elevate to where you are and share it that way. You don't have to identify yourself by your worst thing at that time of your life. You know, so we're also teaching people how to share a little bit of that. And it, you know, sometimes it goes well. Sometimes people start talking. I'm like, oh God,
What did I do?
What did I do? And so I also say, you don't got to share all that. Keep some of that for yourself. That's cool. Everybody don't need to know that part.
Right.
But it's hard for people to share their story, especially people who have struggled. They don't know what to say about themselves in an empowering light because the worst thing is what got them the benefit.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, this is the up and up that's going to, you know, elevate our ministry.
Yeah. So, Courtney, you've talked a lot about like the planning that goes into the work that you all do and the intentionality that you have to stay laser focused on. But if you were to build a bold 3-year plan for housing and justice, what priorities would you include?
More. I know. More. It sounds so ridiculous. More. But we want to engage people we've never engaged before. We want to find new people. And one thing about our ministry is we've been the housing people for a long time before people made housing a hot button topic. You know, we've gone through the years where nonprofits pop up just because the grants are available, you know, and we've had to endure not being the new shiny thing.
Yeah.
We'd say it's, you know, our sustainability, but boldly. Right now, we are 20th in the country in production.
Wow.
So this is, you know, we are high producing habitat, and we're in the rooms with Denver and Charlotte and Atlanta and all that, which is still mind-blowing. But the top 20, if we can keep a status of one of the highest producing habitats and keep our foundational principles intact, that's the 3 years that are going to be very important to us. It's not what you're like when money is going well.
Yeah.
It's what you're like when, you know, what do you start throwing off the back of the bus when it gets tight?
Yeah.
And so in the next 3 years, we want to make sure that we are digging deeper into our foundational principles and not sacrificing the thing that makes us who we are for the next shiny thing, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, times are changing and money can be different and opportunities are different. So are we going to stay faith-based when it's not popular? Are we going to stay zero interest when money's tight?
Yeah.
Because
when lumber is more expensive.
Right. Because technically, if we're the bank, we could add that. But that is not who we are. So not changing our identity because time, culture, pressure changes it.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean you don't grow, evolve, change, reevaluate. But the thing about a bedrock principle, it is bedrock.
It is.
That's not, strategies change.
Right.
Bedrock is identity.
Yep.
And so in the next 3 years, we want to do more while also keeping the how. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
And that's a challenge every year as things change.
Yep.
As things, you know, as administrations change,
Yep.
as this change, you go, can we keep it?
Yep. Can we stay true to who
stay?
we are?
Can we stay? You know, it's Big Habitat will be 50 years soon.
Really?
And so we're 37 years, but the international nonprofit. And they say faith-based organizations are secularized by 50 years. So we're trying to fight. And I want to be clear, we are unapologetically Christian and radically inclusive. You do not have to be any faith, all faith. We bring people of all faith, many faiths, no faith, to our ministry. But the bedrock, we are motivated by a call from God to do the work. And so we are fighting culture pressure. We just believe that God will sustain us, and He has. He's been faithful. So if we stay true and we always say, if we take care of His people, He'll always take care of us.
Yep.
And if they're the focus and the houses and the quality and the volunteers and the community, if that stays true, then He's never left us.
That's right. That's right. So we were talking earlier about key performance indicators and that nonprofits are business. One thing that I want our listeners to know is that, and to truly keep at our core, is that in order to be successful, we have to have proven outcomes.
We do.
Our stories are great, our missions are great, but if we don't have outcomes. So other than number of houses built. What are some of the outcomes, a couple of the other outcomes that Habitat measures your success?
We have under 2% foreclosure rate in 37 years. That's housing crisis, that's pandemic, that's recession. That says that there's the commitment to affordability, so it's proven that people can stay.
Yeah.
But also the sustainability and the investment on the homeowner's part is tried and true. So we see on the other end, we next Tuesday, I think it's 270th family will be making their last mortgage payment and paying their house off. So we have a bell in our building where when a person makes their last mortgage payment, they ring that bell and we celebrate with them. And that's proven. No housing debt. And some of the women and the men that we see, their adult kids come with them to this. And they're like, oh, I remember moving into my house, and they bought their house 25 years ago. So our staff wasn't even there. So we're learning them. So that's a measurable outcome. But I do have to say, when you say a business, Latrice, and I know that you work so hard in this vein, our CEO, Beth Lechner, is top-notch.
She is. Beth is amazing.
She's a top-notch leader. What we see in nonprofits is leadership, honestly. Because we can all get behind the cause.
Yeah.
You could get behind the story.
Yeah.
But the management of that story and the leadership. So our leader has created an environment of excellence to say, you're not in nonprofit because you're a nice person and you could go somewhere else. No, you're here and you're operating at a level of a Fortune 500 company because you want the brightest minds solving the world's hardest problems.
Yes.
And that whole idea is, I'll make money and then I'll do the nonprofit work. And we're like, no, we don't think that. We don't think that way. We want the brightest people tackling this, and we don't want anything less, right? Yeah. And so the way she runs our organization, the way she works for our organization, and then the way she hires. This is the hard, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm getting into. But I am saying nonprofits and ministries will keep people on forever.
Yep. Or make them jump ship.
Or make them jump. Because it's not organized and you've lost talent. And people lean on we're a nonprofit. No. Conduct yourself. If you have a staff of 2, conduct yourself in excellence, right?
Spirit of excellence.
The spirit of excellence, because the people deserve that. And nobody wants to give money to a place they don't think is excellent.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So staffing. Yeah. That is huge for us. And that's, we don't talk about it because we like to fade into the back and let the work be what it is. But if I'm being honest, and because you've given me an opportunity, I have an incredible leader who elevates us and teaches us and challenges us daily to be better. Not for just ourselves, but for the people we serve, because they deserve the best. And when we give them the best, they start thinking they're worthy of the best, and then they give the best back. Yeah. Right? And so even in some of our classes, we'll always be ready. I say, Habitat's always going to be ready. We start on time. We'll always be ready for you. And I'm not, in my personal life, I'm always kind of running to the parking lot, right? But in this professional world, because we tell the family, we're here, we're waiting for you. We've prepared for you. Now, when you get here, show up for yourself. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so that level of excellence is a measurable outcome for us. And so, yes, house is sold, keeping our budget what it is. And it also keeps our staff, Beth pays, we can't be the housing people and then not pay enough so our staff can't afford to live, right? Yeah. So what does that look like if I get up every day to fight for housing justice and I can't afford a home, right? So pay well, but work high. So that's also that turnover where she's been with us for 22 years. I've been there. I started at 25 years old and I've been there, this long. We invest and we keep people. And so keeping that longevity on staff, that's been huge for us. Yeah.
It's a good outcome.
It's a good outcome.
Retention.
That's it. Retention is a good, because people are invested in that institutional knowledge, but you don't get to just be here because you're here, right?
Right. You got to work.
At year 10, okay, because today even, I'm like, there's some things I got to tighten up on, But not in a way of like it's fearful, but it's just like I got to keep growing, or this thing's going to get stale. We got to keep growing, and she keeps growing, So, awesome. And I know that's how you are too, so.
So Courtney, is there anything else that I didn't ask you about or we didn't cover that you would like to let our listeners know?
Actually, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Well, one that we don't give houses away. I have to say that. We do sell houses to hardworking families. We don't do housing for people. We do housing with people. Right. But I have to always say that.
Okay.
How do you see, in your viewpoint, housing playing into what it is that you all do here and the work that you do as an individual? What correlations do you see from your end?
Yeah, absolutely. Wraparound services, right? So if you need medicine, you probably need stable housing. 9 times out of 10, if you don't have insurance or if you're underinsured, you're living in what you said, temporary housing. You're paying way too much rent. So I think, and I talk about this and I talked about it on other episodes, that hub and spoke, housing, education, health, it's all a part. So we are interwoven together in this social determinant work. In order to create justice and equity, we all have to work together. You have to have stable housing. You know, like you said, asthma, lead, all of those things play a part. So we are definitely, we may not be twins, but we're sisters.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. And then what do you see as, when people come to you, some of their biggest immediate needs? I mean, we have a long-term, our work is a kind of a long-term solution. But what are the immediate things outside of getting their medicine that you see?
Education on how to be sustainable in life, right? So we have folks that are working full-time. 33% of our patients have full-time jobs, but they don't have insurance. And we talked about the decisions that we make and how we're caught up in this vicious spider web of poverty. The things that you talk about, the money mentorship, the other educational courses, I know that they're attached to housing, but we need that education outside of your habitat program, because if we start educating people proactively, then life can be easier, right? Because people just don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? So just that lack of knowledge about how to live life fruitfully.
I love that. And how about, I know I'm interviewing you. I know that a lot of, when people approach us, they're not coming from a place of fear. It's just like, you know, can I do the work? But I would imagine that there's a lot of myths you have to debunk from people in a fearful way of health. Where does that come from? Like, where do you see that fear that you have to break through?
Yeah, because when you think about like the Black community, how we've been used for experiment in health. So there's a lack of trust. There's a lack of culturally competent care. So people sometimes feel like, I'm just not going back. So we have to debunk those myths that, no, your health is your journey. You not going back doesn't hurt the doctor. You're going to lose your foot or your leg, right? So just trying to empower people to advocate for themselves, right? And that's in any space. I don't care for housing, transportation. You have to be your biggest advocate. I can advocate for you, but you have to be your biggest advocate. Good.
And people are intimidated by that title.
They are. There's that power gradient.
Yeah, they'll just listen to it. You came and talked to our homeowners once, and you say, fire your doctor, and that was something that a homeowner thought, what do you mean? She's like, it's your doctor. Fire him and go find the one you need. But that concept was like, I have the power to go to another doctor. Like, oh no, they're supposed to be serving me. So I love that because, I think there's a lot of fear that, and I think what happens in our space, because the homeowners are working alongside, you start to break down that power difference. That if I'm putting the drywall up next to you, then I'm just as needed as you. And with those volunteers, I had a family, didn't know until devotion time that everybody there that day were CEOs. You know, she didn't know. And it's like, oh my gosh. But it's like, did it matter when you were painting?
Nope.
It didn't matter.
Nope.
And that, that difference, So anyway, that was good stuff.
Thank you, Courtney. So Courtney, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
You are not only my colleague and my friend, my sister in Christ, but you are my soror. And I thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.